What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. This video we're going to keep going with the Photoshop panels, and we're on the gradient panel. Before we get into it, if you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, also comment down below if you got any questions. So with that, let's get right into it. The gradients panel, this just lets you choose previously saved gradients to use with the gradient tool, and you can also create new ones to save into the panel. So let's pull out the gradient tool. I go over everything about how to use the gradient tool in my gradient tool video. You can check that out, but this we're going to concentrate on the gradient panel itself. So you might see me use the tool, but this video is to actually break down what this is. So first, at the top, we got the search bar, and here you can search a gradient by name. If you hover over it, you'll see the name of the gradient. And it's just a way to find your gradients quicker if you got a big library. Then after that, we got our most recent gradients used right here. And you can see whenever I click a new one, okay, it goes right to the recents. It's just to be able to find them easier if you're working on a project. You don't have to keep looking for a certain gradient. Then here, we got the library. And yours will probably be empty. You might have a couple, but you probably won't have any of these folders. You might have like one or two different gradients like this. Don't worry about that. In a second, I'm going to show you how to get a bunch of them for free real quick through Photoshop. They got a bunch of free ones you can have. But this is your library. This is your collection. Okay. I got it set up. We got some blues, purples, separated by different colors. Then we got some of these for different special effects. And then down here, we got legacy gradients. If you come down here on the bottom, you can make a new group. That's these folders right here. Each one of these is a group. When you hit the arrow, it drops down and shows you what gradients are in that folder. So you could just make a new group, name it. We'll just name it test. Click OK, and then it's right here. You can click on a gradient and click and drag it into the folder if you want, and then when you click this, they're in the folder. You can also move it around, put it at the top, organize it however you like. Then we got this button. This is just to make a new gradient. So say I have my gradient tool, and then if you click on each one of these ends, if you double click on the circle, you can choose a color to go in there. So now, whatever gradient's loaded into your tool, you can see a preview of it up here in the options bar. Then you can come click this drop down and click plus. Then you can name it. You just name it test, click OK, and then it'll pop up here in your gradients panel. So using the tool and making it up here, that's different than if we were to click this plus button down here. We click that, it's going to open up the gradient editor dialog box. We can break it down quick for you. We got the settings. This is just to mess with how you see it. So if you pick text only, it's only going to have the text. And choose small thumbnail, large, or you can turn it to a list with a picture of it and the name. Then you can append default gradients. That's adding gradients that Photoshop already has. So if you click this, it's going to add all these ones. So that's how I got these ones. It just appends them to the bottom of your library. Then import gradients. This is just to look on your computer if you have any gradients in a folder, and then load them into Photoshop. Same with export. You can export whatever gradients you have to a file, have them for later on. If something happens to your library, you can always have them saved on a backup. Then here, same thing, you got the name. You can change the type. It can either be noise or solid. 9 times out of 10, you're probably going to have a solid gradient. Smoothness, you can turn this up or down. This is how smooth the blending is between the two colors. Then you got the actual gradient color bar right here. There's top sliders and bottom sliders. Okay? The bottom sliders are what the color is. So if I double click on a bottom box, it's going to open up the color picker, and you can choose your color here. Right? Then you can come over here to the other one, double click it, choose another color, click OK. Then you got your two colors, and you can slide them, and it'll change the amount of each color on the gradient. If you bring them closer together, that's going to make them be like a harsh change. If you bring them far apart, they're going to gradually blend into each other. Then the top ones, these are the opacity stops. So if I click on one, then this opacity down here is going to open up, and you can change it. So if you have opacity at 0, whatever color you have in the box, it doesn't matter. You're not going to see it. Right? So that just changes if you want any transparency in your gradient. If you don't, just keep them both at 100. You can also slide these around. They don't have to be right over this. So say I brought this down to 50. You can bring this all the way over here. Right? However you want to do it. And then the middle slider, this is just a location. You can change it down here also. And you can see it just changes where the split actually happens. If you click down, you can add another box, a color, or another opacity. If you click down again, you can add another color stop or another opacity stop. And same thing with, you got the middle diamonds. You can move around. Right? And then you can add as many colors as you want. Okay. You just change this opacity all the way up. There you go. Then you can change the colors. Change the locations. However you want to do it. So that's the solid type. The noise type, I'm just going to breeze through this real quick. You have the roughness slider. Roughness at 100, it's going to have individual colors throughout. At 0, it's going to be kind of like the normal gradient. Right? Then you got the color model. You can do RGB, HSB, or lab. Then it's got restrict colors or add transparency. And then you can randomize it. Keep clicking it and see whatever ones pop up. See if you can use it for your project. You can click OK when you're done. You can cancel it. You can import or export files from here. Or you can do a new one. And click OK. Alright, now we're going to go over the hamburger menu in the top right. You can do a new gradient preset. This is the same as clicking the new button. It opens up the gradient editor dialog box. We just went over that, right? Then you can do a new gradient group. It's the same thing as clicking this little folder down here and making a new group. After that, rename gradient and delete gradient. If you can't click them, you're going to have to select one, right? And you can see the blue outline when you got one selected. Then when you come here, you can rename it or delete it. I never do this because if you double click on it, you could just rename it that way, or you can click and drag it to the trash can to delete it. Then this section, from text only down to large list, you got to choose one of these. So text only, when you look at your gradients, they're just going to be text. You can't see a sample of it. Then small thumbnail, right? Large. Small list, where you can see the name and the gradient itself. And then large list. I usually keep it on this. Pretty easy to see. Then show search bar and show recents. That's going to be these at the top. If you were to click that, it would just make it disappear. Now, I barely ever use the search bar, but I always use the recent gradients, right? So I suggest keeping that one on for sure. Then append default gradients. You already know what that does. It'll just bring all these in. Import gradients, we already went over that. You can look on your computer for a gradient file. Export, you're just exporting all your gradients, but you have to select them first. So if I wanted to export all these, I click on this folder, hold shift, then click on this folder and make sure they're all selected, highlighted. Then I come up here to export. You can name it. You're going to export as a GRD file. And then they're going to be saved on your computer in case something happens to them. Then before we go through legacy gradients, obviously close and close tab group. This just closes down the panel. If you close it and you can't find it, go back up to the window menu and then click gradients and it'll pop up. Alright, so last thing, we got the legacy gradients. If you click this, it's going to pop up the legacy gradients right here. You can click the drop down, and it's got a lot of free ones you can check out. You got default ones, harmonies, metals, noise samples. You got some pastels, simple ones, special effects, spectrums, photographic toning ones. There's a lot of different panels that have legacy options. If you click on it, it's the same for all of them. If you click the hamburger menu, it'll say legacy whatever, legacy swatches, gradients. This is just a bunch of presets that Photoshop already has. So they're free, 100% free. And that's about it for the gradients panel, guys. If you got any questions or comments, make sure to put them down below. And like I said, if you want to learn how to use the gradient tool, you can check out my other video. I'll put a link up. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.